Hey students, IDLA, Mr. Winkleman here, and this is the unit that you're going to be learning how to use Excel. And there are some steps that I want to share with you that will make you very successful in using a spreadsheet, no matter what program that you use, whether it's Excel or online or something like that. There are 5 key things that you need to remember, 5 key steps when designing a spreadsheet. And we're going to cover each of those steps, and we're going to create a simple spreadsheet in this video so that you can see how they work together. The first step is to enter your labels. The second step would be to enter your data. The third step would then be to enter all of the formulas. The fourth step would be to design your spreadsheet, and the fifth step would then be to enter in a chart. And we're going to show all 5 of those steps in this video, so plug in your computer and get Excel up and running and follow along. We're going to open up Excel, and I'm using a Word environment, or excuse me, a Microsoft Windows environment. And so you'll want to, if you're using Mac, it'll look a little bit different. But here we'll go to the Start button and go to All Programs. You might have saw Excel there in that Start button. It could be on your desktop too. We'll go to Microsoft Office and click that folder. Open up all the Office products, and we're looking for Excel. I'm using Excel 2010, and click on that, and that'll open up our Excel program. So this is what Excel looks like. This is the desktop for Excel, and you should become very familiar with that. All of your commands are contained in these ribbons across the top of the screen. The Home ribbon, Insert ribbon, Page Layout ribbon, Formulas ribbon, and all of the commands are right here. And then this is the grid that we're going to be working in. This is what's called a worksheet. And notice that you have the columns across the top are labeled with letters, and the rows are labeled with numbers. And so the rows go across, the columns go up and down. And like Word, you can change font and bolding and things like that. And so if you were to want a particular cell, let's click in this cell right here. The address of that cell would be the column E and then the row 4. So the address of this cell is E4. Then you can click a range of cells by just clicking and dragging. And now you have this range of cells, which is E4 through E18. So that's kind of some basic things about Excel. You should be familiar with this already, but that'll give you kind of a basic outline for getting started. And we'll step into the next section of this. Okay, the first step is going to be entering in your labels. Your labels are your title, your subtitle, and then any labels that you would use to label the data. I call them horizontal and vertical labels, and if you watch this demonstration, you'll see what I'm talking about. Okay, as we said, there are 5 steps in creating a good spreadsheet in Excel, and the first step is to enter in all of your labels, all of your titles. And so we're going to create a spreadsheet, and we'll put in some titles here. And the title is like, what the title of the document might be, or something like that, or the title of the store, whatever the case might be. So let's see, let's come up with an example here. We'll call it Mr. Wink's Clothing Store, just for lack of a better idea. And we'll hit enter to go down to the next row, and let's make this sales report. So there are our titles that we're going to use in this worksheet. Now I'm not going to do any more editing. I'm not going to increase the font size. I'm not going to try to center anything or any of that. That'll all come later when we design the document. But for right now, this is all that we want to do. Okay, so now that you have your titles on your worksheet, now we'll put the labels on the worksheet. And the labels are going to kind of define what the data is. I'm going to leave this first cell, the A3 cell, blank, and start with my horizontal labels across the top. And for this, let's just assume we have a couple of different stores in a couple of different locations. We'll put a store here in Boise. How about Caldwell? And and Nampa. And then I'm also going to put a total over here. Whoops. And we'll come back and total those up. And again, this is just a real simple one. The one probably for your assignment has a little bit more depth to it. And now let's see some items here. It's a clothing store, so we'll probably sell what? Pants, shirts, and shoes. And I'll put a total down here too. Again, real simple, real basic. Probably should have put these in here. Just kind of dress it up a little bit. Okay, so I got my title across the top. The title is Mr. Wink's Clothing Store, and the subtitle is Sales Report. And then I've got my horizontal labels, which I'm working on right now. And those are the Boise, Caldwell, Nampa in total across the top. And then my vertical labels are here that go down column A, pants, shirts, shoes, total. And then we will put in our data next. And then the second step is entering in the data. Anytime that you have a spreadsheet, you're having some sort of data that you want to calculate from, either calculate totals or averages, minimum, maximum, whatever the case may be. We're going to use all of those in this example. The data that we're going to use is a very simple data table, and I'll show you that if you follow along with this example. Okay, so we're going to put the data in, and the data will be dollar amounts. How many dollar amounts of pants, of shirts, of shoes that we've sold. And you can see in this example, these really could be anything, but just, for all intents and purposes. So the Boise store sold $1,200 of pants, $675 shirts, and $565 of shoes. And we'll do the same thing for the other three stores. Not the same numbers, but something similar like that. Maybe not very many people in Caldwell wear pants, so maybe less. $950, $575, and $542. And in Nampa, big coverall sales in Nampa, so we'll go $1140 there, and shirts $623, and in shoes $549. There we go. Now there's our data. So again, step one was the titles, step two was the labels, and then step three is our data. And the third step then is entering in the formulas. And here we're going to use three different formulas. We're going to use the summation formula, the average formula. Let's do two more. Let's do min formula and the max formula. And we'll put that into our spreadsheet here, and you'll see how we'll use those. Again, let's go right to the example. So now we go on to the fourth step, which would be putting in the formulas. And the formulas are what's the real power behind using a spreadsheet, is because they're going to add these numbers up for us. But also, if we ever come back to this spreadsheet and then want to change one of these numbers, then it'll automatically calculate them. I get frustrated with students that don't use formulas, and then they just add this up either on a calculator and then type the number in here. That's totally the wrong way to do this. You're totally losing the power of the ability of the spreadsheet when you do that. So we'll put our first formula in here. We'll click in this cell right here, and we want to add these three numbers together. And I'm going to go up here to the auto sum button, which is up here on the far right. And if I click on that button, it's automatically going to put the formula in here, equals sum, and then automatically give me the most likely range. In this case, it's B4 to B6. Now I can make that range anything. I can make it all the way over here if I wanted to, which wouldn't make any sense. But I can click and drag and make a range wherever I want it for my formula. So I'm going to click here, and I'm going to click and drag and make it go back to B4 to B6. I can hit enter, or I could use this little check mark right here on the formula bar. Click the check mark, and look, it totaled it up for me. Let's do the same thing over here horizontally on this row. Again, auto sum, click on it, and it assumes that I want these three numbers here, and I do. So I'm going to hit the check mark, and now I have that total across there. So my total for all pants was $32.90, and my total for all of Boise was $24.40. See how that works? Now here's a real secret. Hopefully you're paying attention. I could go and do that same thing in each and every single one of these cells. Or I can click on this cell. See this little tiny black box in the corner here? I can move my cursor over that box and notice it'll change. Then I'll click and I'll drag it across the three rows. And what it's going to do is copy and paste that formula into each of these rows, but it's going to automatically adjust the formula for the range of the new column. Right there, see it's C4 to C6, and this will be D4 to D6. And I can do the same thing with this one right here. Grab the little tiny black box, drag it all the way down, and now I've got all the totals that I need. Okay, let's add a couple of more here. Let's add average. Let's add max. Whoops. And let's add minimum. Okay, and I'm going to do this for the three stores. So here I'll click in this box right here. See that auto sum button again? Notice the little drop down beside it? If I click that, I can take average. Now look what it did. It grabbed this entire section, but I don't want that. I want just these three numbers. So I'm going to highlight just those three numbers and then click the checkbox. Now I'm going to find the maximum of them. Okay, so again, that drop down, max. Don't want this one number. I want these three numbers. Click the checkbox, and we know the maximum was 1200, but if this was a big range of data, that would be more difficult to find. And then same thing with the minimum. Again, not these two numbers, but these three numbers up here. Don't want to include the total, of course. And click the checkbox. Now, I can do the same thing all the way across by highlighting all three of these. Okay. Copy and paste it all the way across, again, using that little tiny black box. Grab it, drag it over, and there you have it. Now I have the averages, I have the maximums, and I have the minimums. And then we move on to the next step. All right, the fourth step is kind of the fun step. That's the design. And there are a lot of different ways that we can implement design on our spreadsheet, make it look a little bit more fun to read. So follow along, and I'll show you several different ways that you can add color and formatting and all that kind of thing. Let's go to the example. This step is the fun step. It's the design, putting everything into design and all of that, which is a little more fun. So we can do some different things. The first things that we want to do is format our numbers so that they all look the same. So I'm going to highlight all of our numbers, and I'm going to select a particular format. Now I could click all of these as dollar signs because they are all dollars, and that would make sense. But as you look at this, it's a little bit busy with all these dollar signs. So usually what they'll do, what accountants will do and all that is leave the top row and the bottom row in dollars, but in the middle section here, they'll take that and just make that into commas to just drop those dollar signs off of there so it's not quite as busy. Down here, we'll go ahead and leave the dollar signs on there. Okay. Now we can have some fun here with how we want our titles to look and all that. So I want to center my title over the top of all of my data, and so I can select all the way across from all across row 1, but column A to column E, and then I'm going to use this really cool button called the Merge and Center button. I'm going to kind of increase our thing here so we can see it a little bit better, but all the way across row to A to B, or A to E, and then I click this Merge and Center, and what it does is it creates this into one large cell and then centers the text. Now some people will try to click in this cell and type it in and center it and all that. You don't have to waste your time with that. Just click click and drag all the way across and use the merge into center. Okay, now let's do something with our titles. Let's click on that first thing. I use, when I do this, I use the Cell Styles button. If you click that Cell Styles button right here, this kind of funky thing comes up here, and you can click Title. You get this real cool big title, and then here, go back to Cell Styles. We'll call this heading 1, I guess. And that puts a line on there. Now I can then do these labels as well. Go back to Cell Styles, and let's make it this accent 2 with red. That's kind of cool. We should have gotten this cell with it too, so let's just drag all the way here, do the same thing, accent 2 with red. What if I want to center these labels here? Again, I can select this. Now this isn't grabbing that little tiny black box. I'm clicking in the middle of the cell and selecting across. And we can center this by clicking the center button. Let's do the same thing here. We'll drag down to here. Let's even make it the same format. Look, here's what I can do. I'll click on this cell, and I'll use the Format Painter. And if I click that little brush, that little Format Painter, now it's not going to copy what's in the cell, but it's going to copy the colors and the centering and all of that. Now if I drag down, it's going to take that design and put it on all these cells. Kind of a shortcut. It's kind of nice. All right. So we can finish this up. Maybe we'll make this a little bit lighter color. This light. This is our total here. Maybe we'll make it a little bit darker. Cell Styles. Right there. And then down here, maybe we'll make these a little bit. Same thing. We'll make that a little darker. And this one, that lighter color. So real quickly here, you can see that you can, really get a pretty cool design out of this whole thing. So it's kind of fun. So there you have it. There's our report, and then again, you notice that if I click on these, we have the formulas up here, and that's what I'll be checking on your assignment to make sure that there's formulas in each and every one of these boxes and that you haven't typed these numbers in there. Good luck. I'm going to be right back, and I'm going to show you how to do a chart. And the last step, the 5th step, is adding a chart. And this can be kind of confusing because it's key that you select the data that you want to chart before you actually build the chart. And I'll show you what I'm talking about here in just a moment. But also remember this, that every chart you would select different data. For instance, for a column chart, you might select the greater part of the table. But for a pie chart, you would only select one set group of labels and one set group of data. I'll show you what I mean here. Let's go to the example and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so this is the same data that we have been using, and now we're going to make a little chart in here and insert a chart. The first thing that we have to do when you do a chart is you want to make sure you select the data that you're charting first. And I like to make sure you also select the labels. So let's do a bar chart of some sort here. So I'm going to click in this cell right here, this A3 cell, and I'm going to drag to this corner right here. Now I'm not going to select these totals. We don't want those in the chart. We want our chart to compare the data from each store to the 3 items in our store. Okay? So I'm clicking from this cell to this cell and just selecting that data. Then I'll go up to the Insert ribbon, click on the Insert ribbon, and I'm going to click a column chart. Oh, I guess I said bar chart, but let's do a column chart. So I'll click on the column chart, and let's do a fun one. Let's do a 3D clustered column chart. So I'll click on that, and it's going to generate my chart based on the data that I selected. Notice the Boise data, the Caldwell data, the Nampa, and then I even have these colors. Now I can move the chart around here. I'm going to put it underneath my data, and I can actually, I'll scroll down here a little bit. I can actually size this so it fits just directly underneath here. I kind of like to do that. I think it, kind of makes the thing look a little bit better. And I'll size this up a little bit so that we can see the whole thing on one page. There we go. There you go. Now I can do a couple things. Now notice this. When I change this number, let's say, oops, I got this number wrong. It was actually 1235. when I put the 1235 in here, this total will change and the bar is going to change on my chart. Watch. Did you see it? It grew just a little bit. That's the beauty of using a spreadsheet, is that as you change the data, I don't have to change all of these numbers. I just change, the one number, and then the formulas change these numbers for me. Now I can also go back and change the colors on my chart and things like that. And that's something you might want to experiment with. Here's my chart, and if you go, you see up here, it adds more to our ribbons. And we have different chart designs, layouts, and formats. So this is how you do that. It's pretty straightforward. You get a nice, real-looking spreadsheet. And again, the formulas are the key, so you want to make sure you do that. Good luck on this unit, and I'll be sending you feedback on any of your assignments that if there's any issues with, so that you can make sure you can make any corrections you need to make. Have a good time.